The trenches are nothing like I imagined before arriving. Tonight, in the bitter cold of February, the mud clings to every boot, coat, and glove like it wants to swallow us whole. Water pools in the low spots, freezing in places, making each step treacherous. The walls are lined with sandbags, some torn and sagging, others freshly stacked, but none of them feel secure. Rats of every size dart through the shadows, fearless, gnawing at scraps of food and even the occasional fallen piece of equipment. The older soldiers swear under their breath at them, but I can't stop thinking about how indifferent they are to the chaos around them. I try not to shiver, but the combination of cold, exhaustion, and fear is nearly unbearable. The air is thick with smoke from distant artillery, the sharp tang of wet earth, and the metallic smell of something that makes my stomach churn. Every few minutes, a shell explodes somewhere ahead, sending shock waves through the trench, rattling teeth and splintering wood. My heart pounds every time the ground shakes, and every shadow seems to contain danger. The other soldiers around me speak in low murmurs, adjusting their rifles or checking their gear. But I notice the same tension in their shoulders and the same wide, haunted eyes. None of us are pretending anymore. This is reality, and reality here is relentless. Moving through the trench feels like wading through a living creature. Mud sucks at my boots, clinging to my legs and weighing me down with every step. The trench twists and turns, dropping into small pools of freezing water, lined with broken planks and rusted barbed wire. I've been told this is a quiet sector for now, but the constant rumble of artillery reminds me that quiet is just a temporary illusion. Shells whistle overhead, distant but menacing, and every flinch, every involuntary jerk of the body feels like survival instinct screaming at me. I've never felt fear like this before. Fear isn't sudden here. It is a constant weight pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Yet amid all this, something inside me refuses to break. The thought of surviving the night, of seeing another dawn, keeps me upright. I remind myself that every hour I last is another hour closer to living to fight another day, to move carefully through this mud-choked maze without becoming a casualty. The older soldiers talk quietly about men who were killed before they even learned the trenches, and I listen, silently promising to pay attention, to follow orders, to keep alert. Hope is a fragile thing, but it is necessary. Without it, fear would consume me entirely. I find a small patch of relatively dry ground and crouch, trying to make myself small, to blend into the shadows. The cold bites at my face, my fingers stiffen, and my stomach knots every time an explosion rattles through the earth. I watch my comrades, some stiff from the cold, some murmuring prayers, some staring blankly into the darkness. We are all trying to adapt, to survive, to steel ourselves for the horrors that will inevitably come. Even this first night without a single direct attack is enough to teach me that war is less about glory and more about endurance. Every sound is amplified, the scraping of boots in the mud, the distant wail of artillery, the sudden clatter of a dropped rifle. My nerves are taut, my muscles constantly ready to spring into action, and my mind refuses to settle. Sleep is impossible. The trench feels alive, as if it is breathing with us, pressing down, reminding us that danger is everywhere. And yet I cling to the thought of seeing another sunrise, of surviving, of moving through this hell with my senses sharp and my resolve intact. It is the only thing that keeps me upright tonight, the only thing that reminds me that even in the midst of fear, there is hope. I grip my rifle, feeling its weight in my hands, and silently vow, I will endure. I will survive. This first night is only the beginning. The mud, the cold, the rats, the noise, they can press against me, but they will not break me. I will last until morning. I will last until the next day. And with every heartbeat, I remind myself that hope is the only weapon I truly need to survive this first night in the trenches at Verdun. The night deepened, and the first bombardment began. At first, it was distant, just the low, rolling thunder of artillery echoing across the battlefield. Then it grew closer, sharper, more insistent, until it was impossible to ignore. Each shell that struck the earth made the trench shudder beneath my boots, splinters of wood and dirt raining down around us. Men screamed, some in pain, some in terror, some in shock, and I had to force myself to stay upright, to breathe, to move with purpose. Every instinct told me to run, to hide, but the trench is narrow and there is nowhere to run. Survival now means staying low, staying alert, and moving only when necessary. The first explosion hit closer than expected. Dirt and mud shot up into the air like a storm, raining down in clumps that hit faces and shoulders. I felt a jolt through my chest, my heart leaping into my throat as if the earth itself were rebelling against me. Men fell around me, some shouting, some silent, and for a moment I could not tell the difference between the living and the dead. The air is thick with smoke and dust, and it clings to my lungs with every gasp. I taste iron, mud, and gunpowder, and it feels like the world has been reduced to nothing but sound, smell, and fear. I grip my rifle tighter, the wood slick with mud and sweat, and I remind myself, I cannot let panic take me. Panic kills. The screams are worst. One man near me has been hit in the leg. He cries out, and the sound cuts through me. I want to help, but moving risks bringing the same fate upon myself. I duck lower, pressing against the trench wall, and force my mind to focus on what I can control. Breathing, listening, staying alive. Every explosion seems closer than the last. Every shadow could be death waiting. The trench feels alive with menace. The walls groaning under the impact of shells, the mud shifting beneath boots. The smell of fear and wet earth thick in the air. I realize quickly that battle is not the heroic charge I imagined back home. Battle is waiting, enduring, and surviving while chaos surrounds you. Through the deafening roar, I begin to notice the rhythm of survival. When a shell lands, the men react with practiced reflexes, ducking or bracing themselves. Others scream or curse. Some do nothing, frozen with shock. I imitate the ones who survive, learning in an instant the unspoken rules of the trenches. Stay low, stay quiet, move deliberately. I notice the fear in their eyes, the same fear I feel, and it is both terrifying and grounding. I am not alone in this nightmare, and that is the only comfort I can take. Time seems to stretch and compress at the same moment. Minutes feel like hours, yet the bombardment passes almost too quickly, leaving silence heavy with anticipation. We all lie in the mud, chests heaving, listening to the echoes, knowing it is only a matter of time before the next wave. Every nerve in my body is raw, alert, ready to react, yet exhausted from the strain of fear. The cold bites deeper now, but I barely notice it. Fear and adrenaline have replaced every other sensation, leaving only the relentless awareness of survival. Even as horror surrounds me, I notice a strange persistence within myself. I am alive. I am still upright. I can still move, still think, still react. The thought of surviving another hour, another minute, gives me strength I did not know I had. I realize that in these trenches, courage is not absence of fear. It is moving forward despite it, and hope is the only weapon that can keep a man upright when the world is crumbling around him. I tell myself silently that this bombardment is not the end, that I can endure, that I can survive, that I can live to fight another day. And with that thought, I press forward through the mud and fear, clinging to life, clinging to hope, and learning in the harshest way what it truly means to be a soldier. The bombardment finally subsided, leaving a silence that felt heavier than the explosions themselves. The air was thick with dust and smoke, clinging to my lungs and making each breath a struggle. Mud was everywhere, smeared on our faces, soaked into our clothes, mixed with the remnants of the men who had not survived. The smell of gunpowder, blood, and wet earth was overpowering, a constant reminder that life and death here were separated only by inches of mud and the luck of timing. My hands trembled as I gripped my rifle, the wood slick, my fingers stiff from cold and shock. I realized, with a sinking feeling, that my first night in the trenches was far from over. The battle was relentless, and survival was only temporary. Men moved through the trench cautiously, some assisting the wounded, others staring blankly at the walls as if the mud and blood had carved impressions into their minds. I saw a young soldier, barely older than a boy, clutching his arm that had been mangled by shrapnel. He cried out in pain, a sound that reverberated through the trench and dug into my chest. I wanted to help, but there was nothing I could do except offer a few words and steady myself. Every step forward seemed impossible, as though the earth itself were working against us, keeping us trapped in this hellish corridor. Around me, groans, whispers, and the occasional scream punctuated the heavy silence. The living moved with a slow, cautious rhythm, each man testing the mud under his feet, checking his rifle, scanning the trench walls. The trench, narrow and winding, had become a graveyard of sorts. Splintered planks and broken sandbags lay scattered where men had tried to brace themselves against the blasts. I stepped over a body, mud sticking to my boots and leaving a mark across his uniform. He was gone, but the weight of his absence pressed on me. Every man here was balancing on the edge of fear and endurance. We had survived the first bombardment, but the reality was clear. We could not count on another night being the same. The enemy shells might fall closer next time, and we had no assurances beyond our training, our instincts, and our stubborn will to survive. Even amid exhaustion and fear, a strange determination took hold. I realized that the first night was teaching me more than any drill back in the States ever could. I learned to read the subtle signs of the trench, the vibrations of distant explosions, the changes in wind that might carry the whistle of incoming shells, the way shadows moved along the walls. Every sound was amplified. A boot scraping in the mud, a dropped rifle, a whispered word. Each could signal danger or indicate that someone survived. Survival was becoming instinctual, a rhythm that pulsed through every soldier in the trench. I forced myself to move deliberately, checking corners, watching my footing, conserving energy while remaining ready for the next threat. Despite the horror around me, hope remained the quiet force keeping me upright. I reminded myself repeatedly. I had survived this first bombardment. I had endured the mud, the rats, the screams, and the terror. I had seen death, but I had not become it. That knowledge, as fragile as it was, gave me a thread to cling to in the darkness. I learned that hope was not about imagining a future far from here. It was about surviving the next moment, the next hour, the next wave. Each breath, each cautious step, each heartbeat was a small victory. Night stretches on, and the trench settles into a tense rhythm. Men whisper, shift their positions, brace for sleep that never comes, always alert for the next barrage. My body aches from holding positions too long. My fingers are stiff, my jaw clenched, but my mind is alive in a way it has never been. The first bombardment was not just a test of courage, it was a lesson in endurance, in awareness, in understanding that fear is constant and that survival depends on embracing it rather than denying it. I cling to life with everything I have, ready for the next wave, knowing that hope and vigilance are the only tools a soldier has when the ground itself becomes a weapon. Dawn breaks over the trenches, but it brings no comfort. Only the gray, cold light of a world scarred by war. The mud glistens under the weak sun, clinging to everything, making movement slow and treacherous. The ground is littered with debris, splintered wood, shattered helmets, discarded rifles, and the faint smell of smoke and gunpowder lingers in the air. Silence hangs heavily, but it is a tense, uneasy silence. Everyone knows it is temporary. The enemy will not give us a moment to breathe. I stand, knees stiff and muscles screaming, surveying the trench and the men around me. Some move carefully, checking weapons and adjusting gear. Others sit quietly, staring at the mud, at the walls, at nothing, lost in their own thoughts. The first night has aged us all. The fear has settled into our bones. The adrenaline has ebbed, leaving a raw exhaustion that gnaws at every nerve. But survival has also sharpened our senses. We know now that the trench is not merely a place of defense. It is a living, breathing entity that demands constant vigilance. Every corner, every low wall, every puddle could conceal danger, and we cannot afford to look away. The horrors of last night replay in my mind in vivid flashes. The screams, the mud, the shock of explosions, the weight of bodies around me. I remember the man hit by shrapnel, how quickly life can end here, how fragile our existence is. And yet, amid all of it, there is a strange clarity. I have learned that fear is not something to conquer, but something to understand, to let sharpen your instincts. Panic kills, awareness saves. I have survived, and that survival is a lesson in itself. The first night has taught me more about war than any drill or lecture back home ever could. As the sun rises, I realize that hope and determination are not luxuries, they are necessities. To endure this, a soldier must embrace the reality of the battlefield while clinging to the will to continue. I feel the weight of my rifle in my hands, the mud in my boots, the ache in my muscles, and I know that every sensation is a reminder that I am alive, that I can still fight. I force myself to move along the trench, checking for hazards, observing the men around me, learning their habits, their coping mechanisms. Every small observation could mean the difference between life and death in the next attack. Even as I walk, I can hear distant artillery resuming its rhythm. The bombardments will come again, as will the fear, the mud, the rats, the cries of the wounded. But the first night has changed me. I am no longer just a boy from home. I am a soldier, attuned to the trench, to the patterns of survival, to the delicate balance between caution and action. My eyes have seen horror, my ears have heard the screams. My body has felt the tremors of shells exploding nearby. And yet I remain standing. That, alone, is victory. The first night is over, but the war is not. I know that many more nights like this will follow, each demanding vigilance, endurance, and courage. I brace myself, mentally and physically, for what is to come. I remind myself that survival depends not only on skill but on resolve. The trenches are alive, the battlefield is relentless, and fear will always be present, but so will hope, the stubborn, unwavering will to endure. As the light grows, I scan the horizon, the shattered landscape stretching before us, and I steel myself. Another day begins. The mud, the fear, the chaos, all of it will continue, but I will continue too. I have survived my first night. I have faced the horror, and I am ready to face whatever comes next. The trenches are no longer a new, terrifying place. They are my reality, and in that reality, survival is the only victory that matters.